Dr. Kim So-ra wiped the sweat from her forehead as she climbed over the rocky debris. The small moon orbited a dead star, and the air inside her suit felt thick and warm. She had been digging here for 3 weeks with her team, looking for old alien buildings that satellites had spotted from space. "Professor Lee Do-hyun, come look at this," she called through her radio. Her voice shook with excitement and fear. Do-hyun walked over carefully, his heavy boots making soft sounds on the dusty ground. He was older than So-ra and had found many ancient things on different worlds. But when he saw what she was pointing at, his mouth fell open. The stone wall in front of them had writing carved deep into it. The letters were old and worn, but they were not alien. They looked like very old human writing, older than anything anyone had ever found before. "This cannot be right," Do-hyun whispered. He touched the stone with his gloved hand. "Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. These marks look thousands of years old." Park Jin-woo ran over from the other side of the dig site. He was young and always excited about new discoveries. "Dr. Kim, Dr. Lee, I found something amazing underground." They followed him down a metal ladder into a dark chamber. Jin-woo had set up bright lights that showed a large room with smooth walls and strange machines. In the center sat a small box made of black metal that seemed to shine with its own light. "I think it is some kind of computer," Jin-woo said. "When I touched it, it started to glow." Dr. Choi Mi-young joined them in the underground room. She was an expert on alien cultures and had traveled to many worlds. She looked at the box with wide eyes. "We need to be very careful. Old technology can be dangerous." So-ra connected her portable power unit to the strange box. Immediately, the room filled with blue light. Pictures made of light appeared in the air around them, showing stars and planets and spaceships. The ships looked human, but they were bigger and more advanced than anything humans had ever built. "Look at all these worlds," Mi-young said, pointing at the glowing map. "If this information is correct, humans lived on hundreds of planets across the galaxy." The light pictures changed, showing great cities and massive space stations. Then they saw something that made them all step back in shock. The pictures showed huge battles in space with human ships fighting against fleets of alien vessels. "There are words here," Do-hyun said, looking at symbols that appeared next to the pictures. "I can read some of them. It talks about something called the Great War and the Long Defeat." So-ra felt cold despite the warm air in her suit. "It says humans ruled a huge empire. Then all the alien races worked together to drive us away from our worlds." More pictures appeared showing human ships fleeing through space while alien fleets chased them. The final images showed humans landing on a small blue world, a world that looked exactly like Earth. "This is impossible," Jin-woo said. "Are you saying humans did not start on Earth? That we came from somewhere else?" The computer box began to make soft humming sounds. Suddenly, lights started turning on all around the chamber. Machines that had been silent for thousands of years began to wake up. "Something is happening," Mi-young said nervously. "Maybe we should leave." But So-ra could not move. She watched as more screens lit up around the room. Each screen showed a different place. Other moons, other planets, other hidden bases, all of them were turning on just like this one. "We are not alone," she said quietly. "This place is connected to others. They are all waking up." Do-hyun was reading more of the ancient text. His face grew pale. "So-ra, listen to this. It says, these bases were built as sleeping guardians. They were supposed to wait until humans became strong enough to return to the stars." A new sound filled the chamber, a deep, low tone that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The computer box pulsed with brighter light, and new symbols appeared in the air. "It is sending a signal," Jin-woo said, checking his instruments. "A very powerful signal, going out to all those other places we saw." Mi-young grabbed So-ra's arm. "If this signal is going out across the galaxy, others will notice it. The alien governments, their military forces, they will know something has changed." So-ra looked around the chamber at all the waking machines. She realized they had not just discovered ancient ruins. They had awakened something that had been sleeping for thousands of years, something that was now calling to every human in the galaxy. "We need to understand what we have started," she said, "and we need to do it quickly. I have a feeling we are going to have visitors soon, and they might not be friendly." The humming grew louder, and more lights came on throughout the underground complex. Whatever their ancestors had built here, it was fully awake now. And somewhere in space, others were certainly noticing the powerful signals coming from this forgotten moon. Sora touched the glowing box one more time. The war that had scattered humanity across the galaxy was ancient history, but she had the terrible feeling it was about to begin again. 3 weeks had passed since Dr. Kim Sora first touched the strange black box. The small dig site had grown into a busy camp with more scientists, engineers, and equipment. Every day brought new discoveries that made less and less sense. Yang Hee-jin wiped oil from her hands as she climbed out of a machine pit. She was the team's best engineer, but the technology she found here was beyond anything she had ever seen. "The power source is still working perfectly after thousands of years," she told Sora. "Our best batteries die after a few months, but this thing acts like it was built yesterday." Han Sung-ho looked up from his desk covered with papers and computer screens. He had been working day and night to read the ancient human writing. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his voice was excited. "I found more history files. Humans were not just living in space long ago. We controlled most of the galaxy. We had the biggest fleet, the best technology, the strongest worlds." Sora walked between the busy workers checking on their progress. In just 3 weeks, they had learned that everything humans believed about their history was wrong. Earth was not humanity's first home. It was where they had run to hide. "But why did we lose?" she asked Xiong-ho. "If we were so powerful, how? Did the aliens beat us?" "That is the scary part," he replied, pointing to symbols on his screen. "We did not lose because we were weak. The aliens formed a group, all of them working together just to fight us. They were afraid of how strong we had become." Kim Taemin ran into the main chamber, his face full of excitement and worry. "Dr. Kim, you need to see what just happened. I was testing one of the control panels, and I think I accidentally turned something on." They followed him to a wall covered with blinking lights and moving displays. Sora reached out to touch one of the panels, and suddenly the entire room filled with noise and light. Screens showed dozens of different places, other moons, hidden asteroids, secret bases on distant planets. "They are all connected," Sora whispered. "All these hidden places are talking to each other." The main screen showed a map of the galaxy with hundreds of small lights scattered across it. As they watched, more lights began to turn on, one by one. Each light meant another sleeping base was waking up. "How many of these places did our ancestors build?" Hee-jin asked. Before anyone could answer, alarms started ringing throughout the complex. Park Ji-hoon, their communications expert, ran over with his portable radio equipment. "We have a problem. I am picking up alien military signals. Multiple fleets are changing course toward our location." Professor Lee Do-hyun joined them at the central control station. His old hands shook as he read the ancient text scrolling across the screens. "The computer is sending out signals to every human settlement in the galaxy. It is calling them home." "Calling them home for what?" Sora asked. "To finish the war we lost long ago," Do-hyun replied quietly. The chamber began to shake as huge machines deep underground came to life. Through the floor they could hear the sound of metal moving and power flowing through massive cables. "Something big is happening down there," Hye-jin said, checking her instruments. "The energy readings are going crazy." Ji-hoon pressed his headphones closer to his ears. "The alien signals are getting stronger. I count at least 7 different languages. They are all talking about a sleeping threat and emergency response protocols." Sora felt her heart beating fast. "They know what this place is. They remember the war even if we forgot it." New alarms joined the first ones as defensive systems around the moon began to activate. Energy barriers appeared in space around them, invisible walls that would stop incoming ships. Weapon platforms that had been hidden for thousands of years rose from the moon's surface. "Our ancestors were smart," Taemin said, watching the defensive systems deploy. "They knew someday we might need to fight again." A new sound filled the complex, the deep rumble of factories starting up. Far below them, Machines began building something. The screens showed construction bays where metal and strange materials were being shaped into forms they could not recognize. Ships, Yijin breathed, understanding what she was seeing. It is building ships, but they look nothing like our current designs. The first alien scouts appeared at the edge of their star system, just as the sun was setting on their small moon. Ji-hoon tracked them on his equipment while the ancient computers calculated their approach. 3 ships, he reported. They are not attacking yet, just watching. Sora stood in the center of the awakening complex, surrounded by technology her species had built and forgotten. The signals going out into space were bringing humans from across the galaxy, but they were also telling their old enemies that humanity was waking up. We wanted to study the past, she said to her team. Instead, we brought it back to life. The screens around them showed more lights coming on across the galaxy. Hidden bases were waking up. Human ships were changing course toward ancient rally points, and alien fleets were mobilizing for a conflict they thought had ended forever. The age of humanity's exile was ending. The question was whether they would be strong enough to survive what came next. The first alien ships arrived at dawn on the 4th day. Captain Ryu Minho watched them through the observation window as 3 sleek vessels approached the moon. He had been a soldier before becoming an archaeologist, and his old instincts told him these ships were not here to talk. They stopped, just outside our defensive barrier, reported Lee Soo-jin from her position at the sensor station. She was young but good with technology, and she had learned to read the ancient displays faster than anyone else. The energy wall is holding them back, but I can see them scanning us. Dr. Kim So-ra stood next to Minho, feeling scared and amazed at the same time. The defensive systems their ancestors had built were working perfectly after thousands of years of sleep. Blue energy flickered in space around their moon like a giant bubble, keeping the alien ships away. How long will it hold? She asked. The power readings show it can run forever, Soo-jin answered. Whatever they used to build this place, it does not run out of energy. Park Ji-hoon adjusted his radio equipment and looked worried. I am hearing a lot of chatter from the alien fleets. They are calling this an emergency situation and asking for more ships. In the weeks since the awakening began, their small team had grown. Scientists and engineers had arrived from nearby human colonies, all wanting to understand what had been discovered. But the newest arrivals were different. They were survivors from the far edges of human space, people whose families had been hiding and fighting for generations. Commander Shin Ae-ra stepped into the control room, wearing the uniform of the Colonial Defense Force. She was older than Sora, with gray hair and scars on her hands that spoke of many battles. Behind her came a dozen other officers from forgotten human outposts. We got your signal halfway across the galaxy, Ae-ra said, looking around at the ancient technology with wonder. Our grandparents told stories about the old empire, but we thought they were just tales. Minho showed her the tactical displays. 7 alien species have committed fleets to this operation. They are treating us like we are already at war with them. Maybe we are, Ae-ra replied grimly. My people have been fighting alien raiders for 50 years. We always wondered why they seemed so afraid of us, why they attacked human settlements, first in every conflict. Deep underground, the ancient factories continued their work. The sound of construction never stopped, and each day brought new ships emerging from the hidden building bays. Yang Hyejin spent most of her time down there, trying to understand how the machines worked. They are not just building ships, she reported during their daily meeting. They are building different types, some for fighting, some for carrying people, some I cannot figure out at all. And they are all connected to each other somehow, like they share one big brain. Han Seung-ho had been reading the historical files for weeks, and his discoveries kept getting more frightening. I found records of the final battles of the old war. The aliens did not just defeat us, they hunted down every human world and space station. They wanted to make sure we could never become powerful again. Then why did they let any humans survive? Sora asked. Because they needed us scattered and weak, strong enough to do useful work on frontier worlds, but never strong enough to unite again. Seung-ho's voice was bitter. They turned us into their servants without us even knowing it. The alien fleets grew larger each day. Ji-hoon counted ships from races Sora had never heard of, all working together just like in the ancient war. But something else was happening too. Human ships were arriving from across the galaxy. "Look at this," Sujin said, pointing to her screens. "Small groups of human vessels are heading toward all the awakening bases. It is like the signal is calling them home." The first human fleet to arrive was small, only 6 ships from a mining colony 3 star systems away. Captain Park Dongmin brought his workers and their families, all curious about the ancient messages they had received. "We have been getting strange dreams," Dongmin told Sora. "Dreams about flying between the stars, about great cities in space. Then your signal came, and we knew we had to answer." More human groups arrived daily. Farmers from agricultural worlds, traders from the merchant routes, even a few military units from the frontier defense forces. Each group brought stories of strange dreams and old family legends that suddenly made sense. But the aliens were mobilizing too. Long-range sensors showed massive fleets gathering at strategic points throughout the galaxy. Ancient enemies were working together again, united by their fear of humanity's return. "They remember what we used to be," Aira observed as she studied the tactical reports. "They are more afraid of us than we are of them." The first shots were not fired by either side, but by the ancient defense systems themselves. When alien scouts tried to probe too close to one of the awakening bases, automated weapons platforms opened fire. The brief battle lasted only minutes, but it sent a clear message across the galaxy. "The war has started again," Minho said quietly as they watched the alien ships retreat. "After all these years, it is starting again." Sora looked at the faces around her. Scientists who had become strategists, archaeologists who were learning to fight, colonists who were discovering their true heritage. They had awakened something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. Now they would have to see if humanity was ready to finish what their ancestors had started. The ancient shipyards worked without stopping, day and night. Yang Hiejin watched in amazement as machines built ships that seemed to grow rather than being assembled. Metal flowed like water into perfect shapes, and systems connected themselves without any human help. "I have never seen anything like this," she told Fleet Commander Shin Aira as they stood on the observation deck above the construction bays. "These ships are building themselves using designs that are thousands of years old, but they look more advanced than anything we have today." Below them, the latest vessel was taking shape. It was sleek and beautiful, with curves that seemed almost alive. Strange symbols glowed along its hull, and Hiejin could feel power humming through it even though it was not yet finished. "How many ships can these factories make?" Aira asked. "As many as we need," Hiejin replied. "The machines never get tired, never break down, never run out of materials. They pull everything they need from the moon itself." The human fleet grew larger every day. Ships arrived from colonies Sora had never heard of, carrying people whose families had been scattered across the galaxy for generations. Each group brought their own stories of survival and their own reasons for answering the ancient call. Captain Ryu Minho found himself commanding a strange mix of vessels. Some were brand new ships fresh from the awakening factories, their hulls gleaming and their weapons untested. Others were old colonial transports and mining ships, patched and repaired many times but crewed by people who knew how to survive against impossible odds. "This is not like any fleet I have ever seen," he told his officers during a strategy meeting. "Half my captains are farmers and miners who learned to fight because they had to. The other half are commanding ships they do not understand with technology that seems like magic." Dr. Kim So-ra spent her time moving between the command center and the historical archives, trying to understand what their ancestors had really built. The more she learned, the more she realized how carefully everything had been planned. They knew this day would come, she explained to the Leadership Council. Every base, every ship design, every defensive system, it was all meant to work together when humanity was ready to return to the stars. The alien coalition attacked in waves, testing human defenses across multiple star systems. Each battle taught both sides important lessons. The aliens learned that humanity's new ships were fast, tough, and able to repair themselves during combat. The humans learned that their enemies were just as afraid now as they had been thousands of years ago. Li Sujin monitored the battles from her position at the communications center. The alien fleets are using the same tactics they used in the Old War, she reported. They attack in large groups trying to overwhelm us with numbers. But we are not the same humans they defeated before, Commander Ara replied. We have learned things during our exile that our ancestors never knew. The most surprising arrivals were the generation ships, massive vessels that had been traveling through space for centuries, carrying the descendants of humans who had fled the original war. Captain Kim Jae-sung brought the largest of these ships, a city-sized vessel called Wanderer's Hope. We have been running for 800 years, Jae-sung told Sora when he came aboard the command station. My people were born in space, lived their whole lives in space, and died in space. We never had a home world to call our own. You have one now, Sora replied, showing him the tactical displays that revealed dozens of awakening human bases. We all do. The alien attacks became more desperate as the human fleet continued to grow. Intelligence reports from Han Sung-ho showed that the alien governments were arguing among themselves, some wanting to negotiate while others demanded total war. They are scared, Sung-ho explained during a briefing. Their leaders remember the old empire, when humans controlled the galaxy's trade routes and settled the best worlds. They think we want revenge. Do we? Asked Captain Park Dong-min, who had arrived with his mining fleet weeks earlier. Sora considered the question carefully. Around her, the command center buzzed with activity as humans from dozens of different worlds worked together with an efficiency that surprised everyone. I think we want something more important than revenge. We want to make sure this never happens again. The turning point came when the ancient network revealed its greatest secret. Hidden bases throughout the galaxy began connecting not just with each other, but with every human ship, every human settlement, every human mind that was willing to listen. It is like we are all part of one big family again, Sujin said, her voice filled with wonder. I can feel the thoughts and dreams of humans on the other side of the galaxy. The alien coalition's next major attack targeted 3 human bases simultaneously, hoping to overwhelm the defenses. Instead, they found themselves facing a coordinated response that spanned multiple star systems. Human ships appeared from unexpected directions, moved with perfect timing, and fought with a unity that their enemies could not match. After that battle, Minho stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked out at the growing human fleet. Ships from the ancient factories flew alongside converted cargo haulers and patched-up colony defenders. Their crews included archaeologists who had never fired a weapon and frontier fighters who had never seen technology this advanced. We are not the same species that was defeated long ago, he realized. We are something new, something stronger. The final confrontation was coming, and humanity would be ready. The final battle would happen at Nexus Prime, the galaxy's most important world. For thousands of years, the alien coalition had ruled from this massive space station orbiting a bright star at the center of the galaxy. Every major decision, every trade agreement, every military action had been planned here. Dr. Kim So-ra stood on the bridge of the flagship New Dawn, watching as the human fleet prepared for the most important fight in their species' history. Hundreds of ships surrounded her, some built by ancient machines, others patched together by colonists who refused to give up. All of them had come here for the same reason. All human vessels, this is Fleet Commander Shin Ai-ra, the announcement, came over every ship's communication system. Today we do not fight to rule the galaxy. We fight to make sure no one can rule it the way they have ruled it. The alien coalition had gathered their strongest fleets at Nexus Prime. Ships from 7 different species formed defensive lines around the space station, their weapons powered and ready. Captain Ryu Min-ho studied the enemy formations from his command ship, noting how they positioned themselves just like in the ancient battles. They still think we want to conquer them, he said to his officers. They do not understand that we learned something different during our exile. Yang Hye-jin worked frantically in the engineering section, coordinating repairs and modifications across the entire human fleet. The ancient ships could fix themselves, but many of the colonial vessels needed constant attention from human engineers. The new ships are amazing, she reported to Commander Ara. But our old ships have something the ancients never had: crews who know how to survive when everything goes wrong. The battle began when the alien coalition fired first, their weapons, lighting up space with deadly energy. The human fleet responded not with a single massive attack, but with hundreds of small coordinated strikes that came from every direction at once. Lee Soo-jin monitored communications from her station, listening to the confused chatter from alien commanders who could not understand how the human ships were working together so perfectly. They keep asking how we are coordinating without central command signals, she reported. They do not know about the network connection. Dr. Lee Do-hyun had remained at the original dig site, working with the ancient computers to support the battle from thousands of light years away. His voice came through the communication system, calm and steady despite the chaos around him. "The network is showing me everything," he told Sora. "Every human ship, every alien vessel, every weapon fired. We can see the entire battle, as if we are one mind thinking together." The tide of battle turned when Captain Kim Jae-sung led his massive generation ship Wanderer's Hope directly into the enemy formation. The huge vessel, built to survive centuries in deep space, absorbed enemy fire while smaller human ships darted around it like protective children. "We have been running for 800 years, Jae-sung announced over the fleet communication system. "Today we stop running." But the real breakthrough came when Han Sung-ho discovered something incredible in the ancient archives. Hidden deep in the historical files was a communication system that could reach every inhabited world in the galaxy. Not just human worlds, but alien worlds too. "Sora, you need to see this," he called from his research station. "Our ancestors built this network to talk to everyone, not just humans. We can speak directly to every planet in the galaxy." As the space battle raged around Nexus Prime, Sora made a decision that would change everything. Instead of trying to destroy the alien coalition, she used the ancient communication system to speak to every world they controlled. Her voice reached billions of beings across the galaxy, humans and aliens alike. She told them about the real history of the galaxy, about how fear and jealousy had driven the species apart, about how the coalition had kept everyone weak and divided to maintain their own power. "We do not want to rule you," she said, her words traveling faster than light to distant worlds. "We want to tear down the system that makes anyone rule anyone else." The effect was immediate. On world after world, people rose up against the coalition governments that had controlled them for thousands of years. Not just humans, but aliens too. Species that had been treated as servants, worlds that had been exploited for their resources, colonies that had been forgotten and ignored. The alien fleets around Nexus Prime found themselves receiving desperate calls for help from their home worlds. One by one, ships began leaving the battle to deal with rebellions across their territories. "Commander," Aira watched as the enemy formation fell apart. "They cannot fight us and control their own people at the same time," she observed. "They built their power on fear, and fear only works when people believe they have no choice." The final surrender came not from the alien military commanders, but from the coalition's political leaders. Faced with galaxy-wide revolts and a human fleet that seemed impossible to defeat, they agreed to negotiate. Sora stood in the same command center where she had first touched the ancient computer, but now she was connected to every human in the galaxy and speaking for all of them. The terms she offered were simple. No more empires, no more species ruling over others, no more keeping people weak and divided. "The galaxy will be governed by cooperation, not conquest," she announced. "Every world will have a voice, every species will be respected, and no one will ever again have the power to scatter a people across the stars. The age of empires was over. The age of freedom had begun."